And now you.
Yeah, I've never left.
Perfect. All right, everybody, welcome. We're going to start actually in a couple minutes, so give a couple more time for people to come in on Zoom, and then we'll get started. Hi, Diane. Actually, yeah, maybe I should just do it sitting down. Does that not look good? Because
I think it looks fun.
do I look good sitting down? Okay, good. Perfect. Then that way I can see my notes better. Give a couple more minutes. And we'll start. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Yeah? Good.
Feels like summer. It's hot today.
Yeah, I work in the Mason. I think they get 80.
You guys need notepads? There's notepads too if you want to take notes.
Oh,
Yeah, I provided some. Yes.
Everybody. This is what's going to be on your paper in a little while.
Oh, nice.
Does that mean I get to sit down too?
Yes, you can. Yes, I'm going to stay sitting down.
Complementary colors.
It wasn't on purpose.
I like
I think it was on purpose.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay, awesome. Well, okay, then I will take it. Okay, perfect. All right, we'll give one more minute and then we'll get it started.
Sign in.
Yes, yeah. You can please sign in on the sign-in sheet. I'd greatly appreciate it.
IRS will appreciate that.
Yes.
I know Dan manage the finances in our marriage, but I'm excited for them.
Awesome. You're in my place. I'm
Yes.
definitely the one managing or else. At my house, it's a non-negotiable. It would not be good.
We're trying to work it out. I was doing it.
You each do parts of it, maybe?
That's probably what we need to do because I was doing everything we shared with Janice. And then he was kind of clueless as to how much we have, how much we don't have.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden 1 month we were spending a lot. And we were good on our budget, spending a lot. And it's like, oh, this isn't going well.
Yeah.
So we're fine tuning. And I actually postponed our budget meeting for today to tomorrow because of this. So I was like,
So you can bring the tools that you learned from this. Well, awesome.
You'll have some tools tonight.
Good. All right. Well, we're going to get started. Next people, I'm sure people will jump in. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for coming. I'm Janice Rivera. Welcome to Woven. For those of you that don't know what Woven means, Woven stands for Women of Virtue and Excellence Network. And I have here, our statement is that we are woven together by our past experiences, our present skills and knowledge, so we can achieve our highest level of success. Now, what does success mean? It is, oops, there we go. There's 5 pillars of success, and that is health, wealth, success in your business, and that's success in your personal growth, as well as relationships. And when I mean relationships is God and other people. So you can't have just success in just one area. Most people think of success as just money, but realistically, it's more. In order to have success in life, you need to incorporate all these things. And the purpose of the Woven event is every month I try to bring in some content based on each of these pillars, okay? So I'm going to start off real quickly. So this month is going to be talking about wealth, right? And one of the things I wanted to share, I'm going to leave most of the speaking to Judy. She's going to speak on a more practical way, but I want to talk about financial fruitfulness, and I'm going to incorporate some Bible or some scripture about it, right? And so what does financial fruitfulness means? And it says, the Bible talks about you will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? So healthy trees bear good fruit, but diseased trees bears bad fruit, right? So it's saying, so pretty much the quality of your life is not just education. It's based on giftings or talents. And even the Bible acknowledges this. It is the fruit of your life, which the Bible talks about, that really shows what wealth is considered wealth, okay? And Matthew talks about that, a life of, bearing good fruit based on this scripture. So wealth is not just what you have in your bank account, but in different areas of your life. I want to go into that a little bit further. Oops, you want to let somebody, okay. Next. So a tree, a fruit, it comes from a tree, and the tree consists of 3 parts. There's the stem, there's the fruit flesh, and then there's the seeds, right? So how does fruit apply this to wealth, right? So the life of the tree flows through the stem when it produces reproducing what is the tree of the fleshy part. The fleshy part of the fruit is what is good to eat. That gives you the nutrients, right? That's life-giving. Then after that, you have the seeds from the fruit, which you plant in the ground, and then it bears other fruit. And there comes the circle of life. Now, the Bible talks about the fruits of the Spirit, right? And there's the 9 fruits that we see here, and that is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, generosity or goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. So if you guys just stay with me, I'm going to lean into how the fruit of a tree and then the fruits of the Spirit lead into having a fruitful or, quote, wealthy or successful life, okay? So fruit, I'm going to have to minimize this. Perfect. So fruits versus finances and how it applies. So I was doing a devotional about fruit, right? And how it leads into success. And I ran into some, when I was reading this devotional, it shared on how each of the love, joy, peace, how it relates to being wealthy in your life. And that's why I wanted to share on that today. So love, how does the fruit of love play into money? Is that you use money to build meaningful relationships. And that's how you get love, right? Joy, you need to thank God that He knows what you need and He will provide all you need. That's how you get the joy. Peace, learning to be content in whatever circumstances, whether you're rich or you're poor. Oops, I just gotta remember to do this. Patience, you got to think twice before buying something or saving slowly to build up assets. Kindness, helping the poor and being excellent in doing good deeds. That's also part of your wealth process. And finally, goodness or generosity. It's being morally upright in all financial dealings and being generous in giving financially to others. And then the final 3 fruits of your life is gentleness, having humility or meekness versus being proud or boastful. So, not being proudful or being boastful when you're doing something, kindness for other people, that's gentleness, right? And faithfulness is learning to use money wisely. And that is do it in a way which honors God and His purposes for your finances. And then the final fruit of the Spirit is self-controlled. Being disciplined in your spending, saving, and giving. So again, in conclusion, so what is wealth? It's more than what is in your bank account, but it's built on the foundations of living a truly fruitful life. So the goal to financial fruitfulness is formed by living within your harvest or living within your means, right? So in closing, you shall remember, the quote, I left you with the quote of Deuteronomy 8:18. You shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the power to get wealth. And that's pretty much what I wanted to share on today. So the goal, obviously, I wanted to leave most of the conversation for Judy, so she's going to bring the practical steps on money matters. But I wanted to kind of give a biblical perspective, because obviously the Bible talks a lot about wealth. And obviously we know that Jesus wants us to be wealthy. A lot of people think that being wealthy is bad. They said the love of money is the root of all evil, but it's the love of money, not the money in and of itself. So I think being wealthy is more, like I said, than just what's in your bank account, but how you live your life. Are you being blessed to be a blessing to others? Are you being generous? Are you showing love by using your money to build relationships with other people and incorporating each of the gifts that God has given you? Use the wealth that you have to use those gifts and use it abundantly and wisely. So that's all I have to say about that. So I'm going to obviously bring up Judy. She's the main event for the evening. And I'm going to read a little bit about her bio, and she shared it with me here. So real quickly, so obviously, Judy, we met a long time ago. I've seen you multiple times. She speaks at a lot of events. She's spoken at Awaken. I know you've spoken, I think, at Pathfinders. I know your son and daughter really well. And I know that you are a wealth of knowledge speaking on wealth. And I thought, being a woman and a successful businesswoman, you can give that practicality for people, how to apply and what wealth looks like. So your bio is this, and I'm going to read it from you. It says, the profoundly caring and professional money guide, Judy Copenbarger, counsels and patiently teaches individuals of all ages and families of all types on the facts and agendas of money. She's a highly trustable voice for these rapidly changing times, answering with wisdom the question, what is in your best interest? Judy puts it in writing for you. She wrote a book, and it's called, it's right here, I don't know if you guys can see it, Money, Truth, and Life, okay? And she gives you practical wisdom to strengthen families for life, to bring money, truth to your life, and into the lives of your entire family forever. She's an accomplished author, sought-after speaker, and she has penned several books serving as a wise and thoughtful leader and financial fiduciary, right? And she has, how many kids do you have, Judy?
I'm not sure. Five and a couple of in-laws.
Yes, so yes. And I know I've met both of your kids, and they're like, well, that's the two that I know of. And yeah, so she's going to speak on today on money mastery, and as well as answer any questions you may have, whether it be personal or in your financial life. So I'm going to welcome up Judy. Woo-hoo. All right. Oh, yes, we'll switch. Right.
So are my people here?
Oh,
They're here? Where are my?
yeah, I'm going to bring them up since you're not going to use. Let me open this up. I think, no. There you are.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so honored to be here. It's so wonderful to be not just sitting at home in my bunny slippers on Zoom, but to have live, moving, breathing people in the room as well. And you guys are just awesome. I'm really glad that we get to share this time together. And Janice, I have to tell you, you're so on point. I'm going through the 5 pillars. You know, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how well you manage it. If your relationships are broken, life isn't going to work for you. If you're spiritually not aligned where you need to be, your life isn't going to work for you. If your fitness and your wellness is off, life isn't going to work for you. So all of these things go together, and I love how you're crafting Woven to do that for people, to bring all these elements and all these resources together to bless us so we can go and do our purpose, you know, follow our calling and do our mission and our assignment. And I love that. We have a very close alignment with how you're approaching the teaching and the work that you're doing on the planet. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for welcoming me in. I'm happy to be part of the team and sharing with you tonight. So we made a little list together, Janice and I, of some of the questions, some of the comments, some of the concerns that are coming up among women in your community about business. You know, what do we do with our money? How do we capitalize our business? How do we protect it as we're growing it? Maybe you're in a partnership, maybe you're working with your spouse, maybe you're doing your own thing, but how do we do this in a very well stewarded way? How do we know when we're making a misstep or making a mistake and avoid that? Well, the first thing is to always learn from the wisdom of other people who've been there. Always talk to people a few years ahead of you. It's really great also for you young people thinking you want to start a family, you've got little kids. We did something really right in this area. My husband and I, we always had friends that were just ahead of us in life, not just professionally or with our careers, but if we had babies, we hung out with the toddler parent. If we had toddlers, we hung out with the school age parents to see what they were doing that worked and didn't work. And there are a lot of great resources. These days, you've got things online. Back then it was books and tapes. And we would go through them, but still it's not the answer to how do I do that at my house? You know, that's really great advice and a cute story, but how do I do that at my house? And that's one of the questions I've been helping people answer for too long, 40 years, long time, with their finances and with their businesses and their ministries and their money stuff, their assets. How do I grow it and protect it at the same time? How do I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do? Because it doesn't look like other people around me. And it doesn't need to. Even if you live in a neighborhood where everybody drives about the same kind of car, they live in, you know, the same zip code, obviously, they have about the same kind of job, probably their income is very close to yours. The plan that you put together should not be identical to theirs because there are different circumstances, different life experiences, different goals, different horizons that you have that you can't see. So you think, well, they have that kind of investment, I'll do that. They have a rental home, I'll do that. They have this kind of a car, I'll do that. I'll lease it, I'll buy it because that's what they're doing. It doesn't mean it's always the right advice for you. And the problem out there is most advice that you get has one or two or both kinds of problems, one of two. So the first problem is you're getting advice from someone that has a conflict of interest just built in. So you're learning about insurance from someone who sells insurance.
Yeah.
You're learning about investments from someone who wants to sell you an investment. You're learning about taxes from somebody who wants to do your tax return or set up your business entities. Doesn't make it bad, and it doesn't make what they're doing bad or make them bad people. It just means that you always have to think about, consider the source, think about where the advice came from, and is it really the right advice for me? Another thing that happens besides maybe having a conflict in the advice out there is that it's given generically. So if you watch that show with Susie Orman, everybody knows Susie, knows this, she's always a lot of passion, you know. Jim Cramer, the bells, and you know, he's always whacking stuff, and you know, the bulls and the bears and the bells and all that. Or Dave Ramsey, you know, any of these sources that talk about money, they're giving advice very generically. And I'm thinking, I've got a background in several different disciplines, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, that's great advice for that type of person. But if they have this, or this circumstance in their life, that's really going to be harmful. And they don't know it. And what they really need for them is the money truth. Hence the book, Money, Truth, and Life. So money, truth, and life is not money, comma, and truth, comma, and life. Money, truth is a noun. It's the money truth. So what should I be doing with insurance? What should I be doing with my will or my trust or planning for a family? What should I be doing with my business? How should I capitalize it? Should I borrow money to do that or not? Not always borrowing is bad. There's leverage, they're very different. So what should I do at my house? That's my money truth. And that's where you really need to learn at least a primer level, a basic level of, what would you call it? Academic knowledge, technical knowledge in the financial world. So you know enough to know what questions to ask. You don't have to go get a graduate degree or get all kinds of credentials to be able to manage well at your house, but you want to have an understanding to know when you might be in a conflict of interest situation. Someone on the other side of the table telling you what to do or giving you advice that, you know, may not be only in your interest. So that's kind of where how I got here. By way of background, I've been an investment advisor for almost 40 years, started in insurance, and I went into financial planning, and I just kept adding degrees and credentials along the way. Still, I'm in school. I love school. Now I'm working on business school to help my business owners and my ministry leaders. Went to law school with my husband in between child 2 and 3. We have 5. And I kind of squeezed that in there, but it allowed us to add resources and ways to serve people and ways for them to be protected by having the tools to be able to do that. So I'm not a stranger to school and academia. It's funny because my mom has no clue. She's 92 and lives with us on our property. And she's out picking weeds and doing her whole thing, but she has no clue that we went to school all those years. So people call for Dr. Copenbarger. There's a couple of us, right?
Yeah.
No doctors here. Well, remember when we never came home? We were at school for lots of years. That's what we were doing. Oh, you're a doctor? So anyway, it's kind of funny. So, and that's just, yeah, she has no clue. But the other day, Saturday, I was speaking, and she walked in to see me speak because she's like, well, how come you're not in church 8 days a week? You know, because we grew up that way. Well, I'm doing other things. But you don't always have to be in church to be in ministry and helping people and transforming lives.
Right.
And so she sat there and watched me speak, and she's like, wow, She said, you should have given me the microphone. I want to talk about this and this and this and this. And she was all inspired by her daughter. So that was really kind of fun. It's never too late. So she found out what I do,
20 years later.
35 years later. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's funny. Okay, let's talk about a few things. One thing that came up on Janice's list that we thought might be helpful for you ladies is how to build wealth, not just in our business, but personally. How do you get money and get it to grow? And the goal is always, you've got the millionaire next door, you've got rich man, rich dad, poor dad. There should be rich mom, poor mom. Actually, rich mom and shopping, right? So we don't need a poor mom, but the distinction is how you get there and a mindset. So you got three things. You got the mindset, you got the skill set, and you got the tool set. Got to have all three. If one of them is not fully operational, you're always going to be striving and it's going to be like you're on ice trying to run. It's like you're going to have a lot of action, a lot of busyness, a lot of activity, but maybe not make it to the destination. Mindset, the biggest one. Skill set, got to have some technology. And then your tool set, you've got to have some resources. Okay. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. I think those things are true. So when we talk about building personal wealth, what you're going to learn from all these books and all these experts, and you go to Barnes and Nobles if you can find an open one, and there are just miles of books on money and wealth and managing and investing and all things, and Bitcoin and gold, all that stuff. You're hearing it. If you're on Reddit, if you have email, you're seeing all this stuff. So how do I do it at my house? How do I sort through all this information? Some of it's not healthy, but most of it's not. How do I sort through that and what I'm hearing on the news and what I'm hearing, with my friends, and build wealth for me personally at my house with my family? How do I do that? And ultimately, what you're going to hear is you need to diversify, have separate streams of income. You can't do it with a job. Well, I know a lot of people who did it with a job. They did very well, and they end up consulting, and they do very well. So you can do it with a business. You can do it with Airbnbs on your property. You can do it with any resource you have. You can buy real estate and rent it out. You can put your money to work and get that recurring revenue, that passive income that people talk about. That's usually the goal down the road. So if you're a younger person or you're a person who has had to reboot, which is no shame in that. Sometimes we just have to start over, whatever God's teaching us, start over. If you're rebooting, if you're recalibrating, if you're starting all over again, you can use the same principles. And maybe you don't have enough money for your Mr. Money to go to work. It's kind of like you have an extra bedroom down the hall, spare bedroom, and you rent it out to somebody. It happens to be a lumberjack, a nice looking lumberjack with a checker red and black shirt, big glistening muscles. Okay, so you have somebody down the hall, it's a lumberjack. His job is to go out and chop wood and bring it home. If you have a lumberjack out there chopping wood, you want to make sure that the wood he chops, he's bringing it home. It's wood that you're going to burn in your furnace or in your fireplace, not for other people. So let's suppose that this lumberjack, that image, right? He's got a t-shirt on that says Mr. Money. So every day, Mr. Money goes out to work and he brings home the bacon, brings home money. That's our ultimate goal. But if you can't do that right away, you've got to build up for that. So how do you get money? And I shared just a few days ago with a group of young adults about how getting money is easy, and the kind of blank stares because they're all trying to get some. How do I get some?
Yeah.
It's so easy. All you have to do is provide value. The issue with young people, and sometimes not so young people, is they're their own barrier. Well, I don't have anything valuable. Well, when you see yourself the way Christ sees you, yes, you have a lot of value. Maybe you're good at cooking. Maybe you're good at teaching, tutoring. Maybe you're good at languages. Maybe you're good at making yards look pretty or decorating houses and offices. There's something that you do, a talent that you have, a skill set that you have, a passion that you have. Maybe you can commission art projects for people. Maybe you can grow plants on your patio and sell those to people. You make the best cup of coffee. So there's something that you do that you could provide value for others. Maybe it's something that you figured out. You figured out a really good way to make a budget. Maybe you figured out a really smart way to plan your day. Maybe you're really organized about, how you organize the drawers in your kitchen, or maybe it's the closet, getting the closet organized. And you just share that information that works with other people. that's value, right? Valuable for me because it's not my forte. So I have to hire people to help me, go through the boxes. So there are things that you can do, things that you already have inside of you that you can turn into money. And people want it to be so complicated, and it's not. Maybe it's not easy because there's tenacity, there's follow through, you can't just start and stop. But it's very simple. Not easy, but simple. So personal wealth, simple. As long as you're creating value, the money will follow. And when you do what you love, you never have to worry about a paycheck or revenue. Those are the people that I just know when they light up and when they talk about what they do, never have to worry about them having enough money. This translates directly to business, building wealth in business. Same thing. If you have a business, let's see, for me, what would be my torture device? Accounting. If I had to do accounting every day, I hire them. I don't want to do it. If I had to do that, or if I had to sit in a cubicle on a computer all day, that would be like my torture. Some people love it. They light up, they shine, they're so good at it. For me, that would be, I got to be outside in my boots feeding the chickens, I got to be outside. So that would be awful for me. These principles are true for business, just like they are for personal wealth. When you find something you love to do, turn it into a business the right way, without the mistakes and the conflicts of interest, money will follow. And then you just scale it, just do more of it. You delegate. So there's 3 things that you can do when you have a business that you need to grow. You separate, and then you allocate, and then you delegate. Separate, allocate, delegate. And this is for you business and entrepreneurial women. Separate. So a lot of times you just have this good idea, like we talked about somebody baking brownies in their kitchen, or building birdhouses out in their garage or something for a while. Then it turns into a hobby, and then it's like you sell a few. It's like people like it. I'm going to do more, and you start to scale. When you begin to scale, there comes a point where you need to separate the business from the hobby. And this is important for tax reasons, but really important for record keeping. Any expenses that are for the birdhouses and the tools in the garage should not be the same expenses for the shovel and the rake in your yard. Different. So separate, and then you allocate. Well, what are the expenses I have in my birdhouse business in my garage? Well, I need some paint, I need some tools, I need some lumber, I need maybe a saw and some lighting and things like that. That needs to be allocated into the columns in your accounting for business purposes. It will really help you with expenses later, which means no tax on that income. Huge. And then the third thing is delegate. Shall I admit this person? Okay, they're in. So the third thing is to delegate. And that means when you get to a certain point, you want to delegate the technical part of protecting and growing your business to the experts. Get an accountant, get an enrolled agent, get a bookkeeper to do this separation and allocation. Hire a CPA, that would be my preference if you can afford it. It's probably like $1,000 a year to do that properly. Get a CPA to do it right. It makes all the difference, not just now, but later when IRS says, I have questions about 2016. I have questions about 2019. And you're like, I don't know. I think it went to Hawaii. And I think we had a good time and I got pictures, but what was I there for? Was it a conference? Was it business related? For me, it would be, because I speak there. So here is where I went. Here's what I did. Here's why I was there. IRS always wants to know if it's reasonable and necessary for creating your business income. Reasonable and necessary. So I'm a realtor. I need a country club membership. Is that reasonable and necessary? Reasonable. That's where I meet people, right? Necessary. IRS says not as necessary as it was 10 years ago. Right? So it's reasonable and necessary that we have snacks in this meeting, and we've got water and we have all that. That should not be taxable, right? The coffee and the cookies and the snacks and all those kind of things should not be taxable because it's reasonable and necessary when you entertain potential clients, right? Or potential members. So that's how IRS looks at it. And when you delegate that to the experts, they will find all those things. It's more important than ever in the last couple of years because there are so many tax law changes. I know we have a new administration with new taxes coming down, and the tax law changes a lot. It's the biggest tax. It's the biggest body of law that we have. It just changes all the time. Every Tuesday there's something new. And usually you have a law and they say, we'll tell you how it works later. Here's the rule, but we're not going to tell you how to apply it until some cases happen. So you're like, well, how do I color inside the lines? I don't know. So you want to know the people that know that study those changes, and that's going to be probably your CPAs or your smart tax people. Okay, so let's go to another category here. Along the lines of taxes, maximizing your tax benefits. So there are some things that you can do that are tax-free, like the growth is totally no tax ever, federal tax, and for most states, no tax. There are some things that you can do tax deferred, and then there are some things that you can do, some activities that are just non-qualified. And this is how you get Sam working for you. You know Sam, right? Uncle Sam?
Yeah.
So let's leverage his help. They don't help us a lot, but when they do, let's take advantage. So a tax-free activity that you could participate in would be something like, if you're saving for education or for your kids or grandkids, it could be a 529 gross tax-free. You never pay tax now or later. It could be a Roth IRA. If you've heard of all the different kinds of IRAs, a Roth IRA, all the income that grows inside of that account grows tax-free. You don't pay tax now, you don't pay tax later. There are some insurance products and annuity products that also have tax-free benefits. If you have a goal that's related to one of these tax-free activities, take advantage. If you've exhausted all of those, or if you don't need any of those outcomes, then you look to tax deferred. And you all are probably doing something tax deferred. If you have a 403B at work, or a 401k that you contribute to at work, or maybe you're married to someone who does that. If you have an IRA, an individual retirement account, that money grows tax deferred. So that means every year, if you have $100 and next year it grows to $110, you don't pay tax on that $10 yet. Not yet. Later, as time goes by, later when you take distribution, the tax will be due. But in the meantime, if you earned $110, you're going to have to give 4 or 5 of it away for tax. Now you have the whole $10 working next year and then next year. So the trajectory is amazing. That's tax deferred. And if you've exhausted all the tax deferred things that you can do, then you go directly to the non-qualified activities. And this is for maximizing tax benefits while building wealth. So many things you can do. Another thing to consider is how time can be your friend. So you have Uncle Sam helping you. You can have the clock help you too. So if you're in your 20s, every dollar that you put away in a conservative account is going to be worth about $50 down the road. So if you go get a $5 cup of coffee instead of making your own, that's $2,500 at the other end. If you're in your 30s and you say, well, in my 20s, I was in school, I didn't really earn enough, I was just getting by, I was trying to buy my first condo. In your 30s, you start, every dollar turns into a $20 bill if you're in your 30s. If you're in your 40s, every dollar turns into a $10 bill. So still 10x. And I'll tell you all day long, if I gave you $1, if I gave you $10 for every dollar you gave me, how long would we be here doing that? Long time? we do that for a long time. So 10x is still good. So it's not too late is my point when you're in your 40s. And 50s, it's going to be a $5 bill or more. Interesting. So time is your friend because of just a basic compounding of that interest or that income ROI that you have.
Is that the same as a certificate? A CD?
A CD is a type of investment that has interest.
Okay.
You're not going to get 10x with a CD,
Okay.
but it has simple interest. And the way a certificate of deposit works, usually there are banks or credit unions, you'll see the placard that says, we'll give you 2% if you let us use your money for a year.
Yeah.
So you give them your $100 and they promise to give you $102 in 2 years, or whatever the rate is that you agree on.
Yeah.
So it's not really compounding. That's going to be a simple interest agreed upon by contract.
Okay.
Does that make
Plus
sense?
inflation is probably bigger than that, so you actually lose the money.
Yeah, when inflation is higher and it's getting ready to do this, right? Because of what's going on with some of the decisions being made in our government. When inflation's going higher or is higher than the current rate of interest, which has been low for over a decade now,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to take an investment that is interest related. When the interest, and in some of your lifetimes, you haven't seen that, but it has happened where the interest is way high and inflation is way low. So we had that the biggest pocket that we had, period of time where we had that in the past was the late 70s, right into the early 80s. It kind of turned around when President Reagan came in, but we had low inflation. You could buy a house for nothing. Like a $500,000 house was $200,000. So it's like, oh, let's go get it. But what you paid to get it for the loan, unless you had cash, was 15, 18% interest. Which now we're like, are you kidding me? I've never seen as much as 5% interest, right?
Yeah.
But the interest was high, but that forces the inflation to be held down. And then you see it go the other way. So it's always kind of going like this. There's an inverse relationship in those two. Great economic conversation.
I'm just sorry, for the compound, how do we go about doing that? Do we need to like get a certain certificate or how do we?
What would you invest in?
Yeah.
There are 3 ways to invest your money when it comes to traditional investments. So there's real estate and business and all these other things you can do. But you're either going to have an interest, like we just talked about, where you just get an interest for in a CD, or you might get an interest on a loan if you loan somebody money. A bond is an interest instrument. So if you buy a municipal bond or you loan money, not own, but loan money to a corporation, they give you an interest, 3%, 5%, whatever your deal is. And it depends on how long the contract is. Then you can have an indexed kind of an investment. An indexed investment is kind of a cross between like a stock and a CD. So you're getting earnings based on what the index is doing, like what the market scrolling across TV at night, all those numbers, the market's up, the market's down, bears, bulls, red, green, what is that? So a bunch of numbers, it's really kind of cool. I get a little nerded out on that stuff, but yeah, it just means that you're getting the benefit in an indexed. You're getting the benefit of what the market's doing without being in the market. So there's no downside. You can't lose your money. So that's what we like about a CD, right? You give them $100, that 100 is never put at risk. Principal is never at risk. So an index gives you kind of no principal risk, but you get still what the market's doing. And then the third kind is what most people are doing all the time. And that's just a basic security. It's variable. So if you're in the market every day when it closes 1 o'clock our time, it's either up or down from the day before. Like however many people bought or sold it at a certain price changes every day. Sometimes every few minutes, depending on the market activity. So price is up, price is down, price is up, price is down. I'm in a mutual fund, it's going up and down, roller coaster, So the role of a really good financial advisor or a money manager or an investment advisor is to smooth out that roller coaster, right? Instead of that, just smooth out the ride. And that's what you do with a really well-balanced portfolio. And a well-balanced portfolio is going to have some of all of those interest instruments. Say that 3 times fast. I did pretty good though. Pretty good. Interest instruments. It's going to be variable instruments and then maybe some indexes to kind of balance it out. Great question though. Did I answer your question? Great. All right. One thing I want to mention before we go to break, and we're going to do a breakout. We'll do some questions on our breakout. Good. Is just to mention that the people that weathered really well this last year and a half, the small businesses that did well, the corporations that did well, the families that thrived, the churches that thrived, are the ones that were cash rich. Cash is king. You hear that sometimes. Cash is king. So businesses that either had cash or they had lines of credit, they could get their hands on cash to keep their doors open, did well. People who were working and now all of a sudden they're not, or they have payroll that they're trying to figure out how to meet before the stimulus and some of the government got involved. That helped some, others it was too late. The people that had like a line of credit or a home equity line of credit, HELOC, or they had a way, family money, a way to get cash, they did well. And it's interesting, I see cycles over the decades, I've seen cycles of this with people where they don't save, like they've never seen a crisis in their adult lifetime. Why would I save? Because I can go get more. I can just go get more. So you've got to save, you've got to have the cash reserves or availability of cash reserves, always. Always you have to do that. And you mentioned, you open with that, you gotta save, right? You gotta put it away. So cash is king. There are several ways to do it. I think at this point, we'll go ahead and go to breakout and then we'll come back and talk about some financial management, technical issues and things like that. Are there any questions before we go to our breakout? Any specific questions that I can help with?
just going back to the separate, allocate, delegate,
Mhm.
what's the difference between separate and allocate?
Separate is keeping your personal from your business and your business from your personal. Don't buy the rakes for your backyard project with money that should be going toward your birdhouse paint.
Yeah,
Separate your personal from your business. Does that make sense? Same thing. Don't go use your personal credit card to buy a bunch of lumber that you need in your business.
okay.
Separate them. Separate credit cards, separate bank accounts. You can start simply like that. Doesn't have to cost much. Maybe the cost of a monthly fee and a bank account, but you want to separate them. Keep separate books. Like a lot of people don't keep books for finance. They just go back through and see what they spent, if they even do that. For business, you need to be able to do that. So you start to separate and then you allocate. And allocate means you're planning where the money's going to go before you do it. You don't look back and go, oh, I shouldn't have spent it on that. You already know when the income comes in, when I sell 10 birdhouses, I'm going to go buy some more lumber. Or I'm going to, go hire an accountant or whatever it is, right?
Pay for an ad.
Yeah, pay for an ad. Yeah, I'll do some Facebook ads or something. Yeah. So you want to, before it's being proactive, not reactive. Yeah, great question. Yeah. So do you want to take us into
Yeah.
breakouts? I'm not sure
So-
if there's technology involved in that.
No, so thank you, Judy. So we're gonna stop real quick and then we'll finish up. So some of the questions that Judy gave me that we're gonna discuss, and I'm gonna bring them up here. Let me minimize this so you guys can, you can see it up there. So these are the questions in Zoom. They already put you guys in a room. So we're gonna, for 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes?
That's great.
Yes, have you guys discuss amongst yourselves? Now, these questions. Number one, when you reflect on your financial journey, what do you feel is your biggest gap? So what's missing? What do you find is your biggest, struggle, What is your greatest financial lesson that you've learned? Who has influenced your money attitudes the most, whether it be positively or negatively? And what would you like to know about money in your business before leaving this evening? And if you guys want to write down questions before, because we're going to leave a Q&A at the end. So any questions you guys have, write it down. Even as you guys are talking, we're going to talk here amongst ourselves. So there's and then and then she can answer these questions too when we do our Q&A. Okay? So we'll just do for about 5-10 minutes. All right, good job. Thank you. I'm gonna
Hi, guys. We're back. Oh, I'm going to hide my screen because my son is running around with his drawers off. Hang on. Hello. Hello. It said the host wanted to unmute me. Hey, guys, we can't hear anything.
Can you?
Uh-oh.
Yep, we can hear you now.
And
Can you see?
oh, there you go. Sorry, I had it on mute. I didn't realize it. So the questions people have posed so far, and you guys could chime in, was what are the different types of investments to invest in at what stage? What was the other question?
How do I start in real estate? Should I have life insurance? I'm going to cover the difference between bonds and stocks in a
Okay.
way that you'll remember. And then you were asking about a legal question with
Maybe just
websites.
how to protect our businesses when we have a website, when we're selling online, you have like the privacy in terms, like how do you make sure your website is protected? But that may be more like a legal question,
Mhm.
but
Yep.
I think
That's
a
a good
lot of
question.
us may have
Mhm.
websites, the email opt-in, like there's different laws with information.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Lots of little parts. Yeah. Good. Well, let's tackle some of these. It looks like we're good for another 30, 40 minutes or so.
Mhm.
Good. Wonderful.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Okay. So one of the questions came up, what do I do? LLC, LLP, C Corp, S Corp, sole proprietorship, what partnership? What do I do with my business? So the rule of thumb is when you have a startup business and you're just this new entrepreneur, or you have a business that's maybe just been around a few years, the rule of thumb for when you incorporate is when you have about $100,000 as expected total revenue. If it's under that, you can have a corporation, or you can go ahead and have a S Corp, and I'll explain the difference between an S and a C Corp. You can do that, but it's not very cost effective. And there are paralegals or attorneys or accountants that want you to do that. Accountants really want you to do it because they'll charge you to do the LLC, and then they'll charge you every year for the corporate tax return. So they're going to say, you want to start a business? Let's go ahead and incorporate now. I disagree. Unless there's another reason that you need the liability protection that an LLC or some other corporation provides, there's usually not a reason to do that in the first early stages. There's not enough exposure. So that would be a protective thing to do, but you don't have enough protection need yet. And the best way I can describe that is with a visual. So here I have a greenhouse, a real one. It's very small, but it's real. So if you think about that, we have a greenhouse on our property, and growing up, we always had a greenhouse too. We lived in the mountains, so we had to protect our chickens and our goat and our crops, because the snow came early and stayed long. So if you think about a greenhouse, it's a protective structure in which we grow our garden. So it's kind of like a football game as well. There's offensive and defensive. Basketball, offensive, defensive. If you miss one, you lose the game. You've got to have both. You have to have growth, and protection in your financial game. So there are activities that you participate in that protect what you're growing, like having a corporation. It's liability protection. It also gives you a lot of tax benefits. If you have a family, a will or a trust or these powers of attorney, all these legal documents, which is a lot of what we do, they protect you. If all these circumstances show up in your life, you have what you need to protect you legally. We were talking a little bit about the IP, intellectual property. I have a website, I have a business. I don't want people copying my stuff or turning me off because they think I copied their stuff. How do I protect against that? Those would all be greenhouse activities. The growth is going to be things like investments. Should I invest in real estate? Should I invest in a mutual fund? Should I be in stocks? Should I be in Bitcoin? What do I do with my money that I'm trying to grow? How do I get that lumberjack working, Mr. Money working? Lots of ways. He's got lots of tools. So this is just a visual to try to answer that question. Some things we do are about protection. We're going to talk about life insurance a little bit. You do that for protection, not for growth. Usually when it's being sold to you, they sell it to you as a way to prepare for retirement or your kids' education or some growth activity. It's not designed to do that. It's designed, but that's where the power of the emotion is, right? It's designed to be a protective resource. So you just want to make sure that you're aligning the activities that you're doing. Are they about growth? Are they about protection, or both? And am I doing something appropriate based on the need for that? So hopefully that kind of clarified a little bit about why we would want to have a corporation. So to define the difference between a C Corp and an S Corp, a C Corporation is going to be what all the big boys have, the big blue chip stocks have. For lots of reasons, there's layers of protection they need. For a person that is enjoying that 80 to 100 to 120 or more $1,000 a year revenue and they're ready to incorporate, you're going to want to look at an S corporation. Subchapter S is like the legal shorthand. An S corporation allows you to pass everything through, all those expenses we talked about before that you get to write off and not have to pay tax on. As the income comes in, now it's deductible. And so the income is going to pass right through onto your personal tax return. And if you had a gain in your business, it shows up on your personal tax return. If you had a loss, it shows up against any other income in your personal finances. That's a good thing. It also allows you a lot less exposure to an audit because you're incorporated. It also allows you a lot more full breadth of expenses that you can take. So before you incorporate, if you're not at that level yet, or don't expect to be in the next year, you have what we call a sole proprietorship. And that's when you fill out the form C, you file it with your personal taxes and you just write off, I went out to eat and I bought some gas and I, made some brownies for church, all those things that you do. And it's on your personal return. If you start to get more expenses than income, after a couple of years, IRS says, nah, that's not a business. You're not making money. You're just taking deductions. It's a hobby and they'll take it away from you. Usually a couple of years later, when now you have interest penalties and interest on the penalties and crazy, and you get this big fat IRS bill and they say, don't do it again. And then you have other years you have to clean up. So you want to do the incorporation at the right time. There are also LLPs, partnership, limited liability. When we say LLC or LLP, it's limited liability. That means you have somebody who's taking on all the liability and other partners, other members that don't have any liability. Well, that's good. If we're in business and if the business fails, I don't have to sell my house to make it good. That's good. That's limited liability, either corporation or partnership. There are many types of corporate entities that have to do with different types of professionals. So sometimes you'll see a special LLP partnership for accountants, attorneys, architects, dentists, doctors. They have special partnership agreements with their own special laws for those things. Might not apply to most people that want to build birdhouses, right? Or sell real estate or something like that. But usually you start out sole proprietorship. When you get to that magical maturity level, then you can incorporate. And for most people, you want to talk to a professional about, should it be a C Corp? But for most people, it's going to be an S Corp. And your accountant would know what makes sense for you around that. Okay, so a couple questions that came in. Let's talk about, there are 5 pillars. I love that you have 5 pillars here at Woven. We have 5 pillars also in our Money Truth work. So there's legal And insurances, those are part of the greenhouse. Those are all the activities in the area of legal and insurance that protect our wealth. Then you have taxation. It's kind of neutral. I would say it's more protection because when you pay less tax or eliminate your taxes, that's a lot of protection. It's just as good as earning more money. Then you have investments and cash flows. And by cash flows, I mean cash flow and cash reserves. So it answers the questions, well, how much should I have in savings? You know, is it too much or too little or just right? How much should I have for a rainy day? How much should I have to capitalize my business and make sure I can make payroll if you have a payroll? So those are the 5 pillars. So some of the questions came in from different pillars. So we get to revisit those a little bit. So one question was, should I have life insurance? And I think a more general question would be, when should I have it? Do I need it at all? If I need it, how much do I need? What kind should I have? And for how long should I keep it? Right? And there's kind of this whole, we actually have a list of questions you ask yourself to get to the right answer at your house every time. But usually you're learning about life insurance from someone who is on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing. It's just the information might not be just information, right? So when you should have life insurance, in my opinion, after doing this a little while, is if you have some debt, if you have a mortgage, if you have a student debt, if you owe on your cars, if you have credit card debt that's revolving, if you owe any money and you don't want to die and leave that debt to someone, you might want to have life insurance that pays a death benefit that can cover that. So what you leave them is whole. Some people also plan for life insurance, and this is how you get to how much do I need? And then later we'll talk about what kind. They might think, okay, well, I make money in the house, I may have $100,000 income. If I die, I've got 3 little kids, that $100,000 is going to go away. Where's it going to come from to keep the lifestyle going and to keep putting money in the college fund and to keep putting money in the retirement fund and trips and all the soccer balls and all that stuff, piano lessons? Where's that money going to come from to replace the income that I was providing? So usually 10x is a good rule of thumb if you're in your working years. So if there's $100,000 I'm providing as income to the household, I need $1 million of insurance, not just to last 10 years, but it could be invested and then cover that. So minimum 10 times the contribution, financial contribution to the household is a good place to start. And then you might add to that enough to cover the mortgage or enough for any other goals that you have in the future.
So 10 times your annual
Yeah,
lifestyle.
that's a good start.
Okay.
And then you have a traditional home where dad's out working. He's got a good corporate job. Mom's home doing the kids, taking care of him and the house and all those things. Well, I don't really earn money or contribute to the household. I don't contribute, so I don't need life insurance. The mommy doesn't need life insurance. Okay. You are contributing. Maybe it's not financially, but what would it cost dad to keep going and doing his job? He's widowed, right? He has to keep doing his job. Who now is going to shop, clean the house, tutor the kids, get them to their ballet lessons, do all of that? Now we need a cook and a nanny and a tutor and all those things to take care of him in the household, that he can't do it both. And if he's mourning, he's not even going to want to go to work for a year or 2, or maybe longer. And I've been through this many times with many, many clients. So how do we provide for that? So it might be a bereavement 2 or 3 times income as a base, and then replacing the contribution. And rule of thumb, I would say a young mother, it's probably $100,000 a year that you would need to replace until the kids are in school, and then about $60,000 a year after that to replace with professionals to do some of the things that the mom was doing. And then the alternative is you have family around you, which a lot of people just rely on family and end up, having these homesteads with everybody together, which I love. It's so romantic and wonderful, and we're doing it. But you have everybody there. But if you don't have that, or if you don't live on the same coast, or if it's not possible for the survivor to move because of their job situation, how are we going to cover that? So those are things to think about. What do I need if I'm not here? What are we replacing if I'm not here? And then the 10X or 3X or whatever you need to do with that. And then spouses, maybe reciprocity, all the debt paid off. Those are ways to think about it. And then do we do that permanently or temporarily? So temporary insurance is what they usually call term insurance. You buy it for a number of years. You can't get it well into your 80s, but you can get it into your maybe early 70s. and it's maybe a 10-year policy or a 20-year policy or 30 that you just buy and then it goes away. But it's long enough to cover those earning years. It's long enough to cover college for the kids. It's long enough to cover the mortgage until the house is paid off. We don't need it anymore. And it's about 1/5 the cost of the other kind of insurance, which is permanent insurance. It's either temporary or permanent. Permanent insurance, you will hear called whole life or universal life or an IUL. There's all kinds of acronyms because there's all kinds of insurance contracts. They do things a little differently, how the money is earned, how the money pays out, how long it lasts, the variables that you have with how you pay the premiums on the insurance. All these things make different contract provisions that give them different names and different initials that you hear tossed around out there. I would say a variable or an index life policy would be the choices, like from the menu of all of them. Those will be the choices for permanent insurance if you need it. But remember, it's going to be many times, probably about 5 times the premium for the same amount of money as term. So for young families, and it's not something you want to start and then stop because, you know, we're short money now, we stop the insurance, now you have nothing. So a lot of times in a young family, you'll do the term insurance because it really is dirt cheap.
Okay.
Like for cappuccino money, you can get hundreds of thousands, maybe $1 million. I would say, you know, $100, you could get husband and wife, $1 million each. It's very inexpensive. Most people don't know that because they're not hearing that offering from the people selling it because they want to sell you something that costs $1,000 a month, not $100 a month, right? Just saying. Okay. So just always look at your options. You could ask, that's a permanent solution you're giving me. Do you have temporary too? What would term insurance be? And you can also click it, Google around. But when you do it, go to an independent source because it's retail. It's like buying a car. You could go to one that just gives you a good deal or one that's like going to charge you the highest all the time. And the ones that you know the names of, when you say insurance companies, you know the names because all the ads,
Yeah.
they can afford the ads because the premiums are way higher. So, and I won't list the names, but you know who they are. And so typically life insurance will be about 1/3 the cost of the company that you also have your home and your car with. If you go to the other independent companies, way less money.
So you're saying like, for example, I have AAA
Yeah,
insurance.
keep shopping.
Keep shopping, because they're always sending me stuff.
Banner's pretty cheap. Right?
Banner's a good one.
Okay.
And you can go independent there. Yeah.
Banner?
The ones that have all that, just think of the ones that have all the commercials. They're not going to be your best deal because they're building in all of that marketing and it's a lot. It's a lot of money. Good. So that's all I know about insurance, life insurance. I mean, there's all kinds of insurances that we deal with, but life insurance question came up. Okay. So where do I start in real estate? You can start in real estate right now, today. If you have a sofa in your house, if you have a chair or a corner in your house, you can rent out a chair or a sofa or a desk, especially with the COVID things. People are looking for just a place to study or just a place to have Wi-Fi or just a place to sleep. So you can start that small if you really want to be in real estate. The thing about real estate, there's commercial, residential, there's so many kinds. The business partners that we've had, the clients that we've had that have done very well, stayed in, well, I have a lot of commercial ones too, but most regular people can afford to stay in residential. It's like 3-bedroom, 2-bath model. You just want to have residential near a hospital or near a university. So people say, well, should I be in Texas or Florida or Idaho? Where should I, all these years, there's hot pockets of real estate. But if you do that, it doesn't matter where you are. You just have to consider management. Do you want to actively manage it or do you want to hire a manager? 10 to 15%? Is that the going rate here still for management? Yeah. So is it worth it to not get the calls?
It's 8 to 10 actually percent, not 15.
Okay, 8 to 10, that's
yeah,
good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, so, and here there's higher rent, so it might be a little higher in other parts around the country.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so you don't want to get those calls, the toilet in the middle of the night calls. You don't want to get the termites, in July calls or the AC went out or whatever. So for some people, they get to the point where I don't want to get those calls. I just want a manager to do it. And I just want to have the checks show up. And then I want to allocate and delegate and keep my records, right? But really, there's so many ways to do real estate. I think if you have 20% over what you need, after you filled up all your retirement buckets, your goal buckets, your education buckets, all the goals that you have, they're fully funded. You have another 20% of your net revenue that you need. Then it's time to go do some of these other investments. Because there is risk. There's risk in any investment. So at that rate, you would probably have enough to put money in to make it make sense to start acquiring property or to add to your property acquisition.
So do you recommend other things before investing in real estate?
I think you need to, I was just going to go into the allocation, the delegation, which we had another question, how do we make sure that we're spreading risk? So anytime you diversify, your diversification, that just means a whole bunch of different things.
Right.
Lots of baskets for your eggs, right?
Right.
And you don't want to trip and fall with the one basket. So I've done that. We have chickens with eggs and they are breakable. So yes, big mess. One day I put them in my pockets. And I was talking to some people out at the driveway. Oh, don't put those eggs in your pockets. Oh, I'll be fine. Or, I had a pocket full of omelets. So
Scrambled eggs.
It was very messy, hard to clean. Yeah. So anyway, you'll see the other side of Judy. And I love the opening about the gardening and the farming and what the Bible says about growing fruit. That's what we do. We're organic farmers and we've got all kinds of rare fruit trees and
Fun.
all kinds of organic vegetables. And that's I do my day job so I could do my
That's your
weekend job. Oh, love it. I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So back to ways to diversify. So when you're diversifying, you are reducing risk. So if you had $100 and you could buy 10 different stocks, that would be a lot smarter than buying one $100 stock, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because
What if it's the wrong stock?
exactly.
Or the right stock at the wrong time, right?
Right.
So you're reducing risk. The same thing happens with real estate. The same thing happens with businesses. The same thing happens with any mutual funds, bonds, any kind of investment you have. You want to diversify to reduce or eliminate risk. And I'm talking about market risk necessarily. There are other kinds of risk. Earlier, we were talking about, I like to save. I'm comfortable having money in the bank. I don't want to do all this other stuff. I just want it in the bank. Well, if that's all you do, there's another risk that sometimes seems invisible. Like you don't know there's a risk because it seems so safe. The bank's not going to go away, but you have inflation going on. You have opportunity going on. You're missing that. It's called opportunity risk. You're taking on at a big level if you're only in cash. There's so many there's interest risk. There's all kinds of inflation risk. Okay, so let's move on to a couple more concepts before we wrap up here. We had questions about investment types, and which means we have to talk a little about the bears and the bulls, and we have to talk about Evan. So let's start with Evan. Evan is the name of our oldest son. And this is a story about Evan when he was about 12. So his business, it was not incorporated the first year, but his business was called Evan Lawn Mowing Service. Little 12-year-old, he says, man, I'm going to be in business. I'm going to capitalize my business. Anytime you see the word cap, that's capitalized. So small cap, mid cap, large cap, you see like mutual funds and stocks have that. That means how much size they have. They're capitalized. So here's Evan out there all summer long, getting ready to mow. He said, oh, I gotta have this. I gotta have this business. So I need $100 because I gotta get a used lawnmower. Gotta get a gas can, put some gas in it. I'm gonna need flyers. I can tell the neighbors I'm in business. I got a cell phone and I'm in business and I'm 12. I'm capitalizing my business. So he decides to do this, but he doesn't have $100. So where am I gonna get the money? Dad, Mom. So he needs $100. He goes to 10 different people. Maybe each of us want to invest with him. I'll give you $10. Oh, that sounds like you got a pretty good business dollars, and you give him 10, and you give him 10, and 10 of us give him $10 each. He's ready to go. He's capitalized his business with $100. Buys his lawnmower, puts up flyers, and people are hiring him. $5 each. He's out there sweating, mowing lawns, $5 every time. But we have a stake in the game. We have given him money. We actually own part of his company. We each own 10% of his company. So every time he mows a lawn and gets $5, he's got to pay dividends to us because we're owners. We are stakeholders. We're shareholders. So he gives us dividends every time he makes money. he declares dividends. We're like, cool. You know, I started at $10. Now my $10 is worth 12 because the business is now worth $120. And every time he mows a lawn, I make a dime. That's pretty cool. He gets $4. The business is growing and we each get our dividends. So we got dividends and we got growth of our value because we capitalized the business by owning a part of it. Now he's 13. He was very successful mowing lawns all summer long. Next year, he's older and wiser. He's like, you know, I didn't like having to give you guys all those dimes. Every time I mowed a lawn, I was out there sweating and you guys owned a part of my company and you got the dividends. What I'm going to do this year is I'm going to borrow the money. So, Mom, Dad, I need $100. I got to tune up my lawnmower. I got to get a new gas can because I lost mine. I need more gas and more flyers. Well, I'm not going to give you $100, but I'll loan you 10. And guess what? You loan him 10, you loan him 10. 10 of us each loan him $10. We don't own anything now, but we're loaning him money. And so he said, here's the thing, at the end of the summer, I'll give each of you 5% of what you invested. So we give him $10. At the end of the summer, we're going to get $10.50 back, guaranteed. So we're loaning, not owning. That's a bond. When you own, it's a stock. Stocks have dividends, stocks have shareholders, stocks have an interest in the game. The business makes money, you get part of it. If you own a bond, you're loaning your money to Evan or GE or American Airlines or the state of California, don't do that one, or the county of San Diego, right? You're loaning with a bond, you're owning with a stock. That's the big distinction in the two. The last thing you need to know about these two, when stocks are going up, bonds are going down.
Yeah, inverse relationship.
When bonds are going up, stocks are going down. And we know that from the mortgage business because interest rates, every Tuesday, we want to know what they are, right? Yeah. So that's the difference between stocks and bonds. And yes, you should have both in the perfect pie. And again, there's risk tolerance, there's horizon, there's all these factors, and I don't give blanket advice, but for most people, you start around 70-30, 70 equity, that's 70% stock or equity ownership types of investments, and 30% interest instruments. Interest, that's your bonds, commercial paper, notes, commercial notes, things like that. Interest or dividends, and that's your 70-30 pie. It's a good place to start. You might be 80-20, 90-10, 50-50, but most people, that's like a sweet spot to weather the storms to come. Proper way to invest. Yeah.
Sorry, before you go too far. So stocks, you earn dividends.
Yep.
Or loans, stocks you earn dividends, and loans you earn dividends as well.
Nope. Interest, just
Just
interest.
interest.
Yep.
Because you're loaning
And you
them
already
money.
you already know when you go in what you're going to get. It's contract. That's what 13-year-olds do. What a contract. Yeah. Now you'll never get stocks and bonds confused. You're owning or you're loaning. What am I doing? You need both.
Nice.
Is this a true story?
It's true that he did that, but it's not true that he sold bonds. Yeah.
But he is a very successful, your family is so enriched to
Yeah.
Jacob. And
Yes.
You could, their kids and just
Nick
the
and all that,
languages website,
Mhm.
what he does now is just.
Yeah, 4.5 million. I mean, he's like top YouTuber. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did he do?
Language, online language learning, YouTube.
What's it called?
Echo, EKO, languages. It's my oldest son. Yeah, he's not mowing lawns anymore. Although he does love to be in the yard, and he's the mastermind behind the architecture of our farm, which is kind of brilliant. Okay, so the last thing I want to leave you with, and then I'll do what I like to call I, impact and implement, which is really for you guys to just capture something from this evening and take it home with you. Let's talk about the bulls and the bears, because there's always this curiosity around, why do they talk about bears and bulls and their statues, and they even show it sometimes on TV? What is that? Why do we care about these two creatures? And there's a history there. So when the market's moving in a certain direction, that's when you get bears and bulls conversations. Have you guys heard about that? Do you know why? Where it came from?
No, I don't know where it came
Wall
from.
Street has a statue.
Oh yeah. Is it a bull or a bear?
It's a bull.
It's a bull.
Do we know why? Do we want to know
Because
why?
when the market's going up, it's bulls, so it's
But
like,
why isn't it like a buffalo or
I don't
an
know.
eagle?
oh, I don't know.
Yeah. Why is it a bull and a bear? You'll never wonder that again in about 2 minutes. So here's a true story. In the old days for entertainment, they used to build these coliseums and they do gladiator things and they'd have people fight. Then they bring in animals and they'd have people fight animals. And it usually, you know how that ended.
Yeah.
And so even in our early days, they would have these small circuses, they were original circus, coliseums, and they would have animals come and fight and people thought that's great. Let's go out to the fight. Let's get the popcorn, get the kids, we're gonna picnic, let's go watch the fight. And they would bring animals in to do that. So they would usually have a bear, maybe 2 bears or a bear and a big cat or something else. And if you think about how they fight, how the bear charges, how the bear strikes, they come up to you. If you've ever seen them in the forest, they get on their hind legs and they take their paws and they kind of scratch on the trees. That's how they strike. They stand upright with those ginormous paws and they strike down. So when they're active, when they're doing what they do, it's go in the downward motion. So a bear market is going to be down. So let's think about a bull. If you've ever seen a rodeo or seen one on TV, you see, you know, they've got the clowns and they've got the rodeo guys and they're hanging on and they're doing their thing and flying all over. So the bulls, when the bulls come out, they charge at you. And right before, with the giant horns, right before they get to the person that they're going to be trying to gore, they lower their head and they strike up. They bring their horns straight up. And then usually whatever they're hitting or the guy that they're trying to get, they go flying up, right? Upward motion when they strike. When they do what they do, it's an upward motion. So a bull market,
Is that
like the statue, is up. So Wall Street people like up or down.
up?
That's why they have a bull. You'll never see a bear representing a market unless they're bonds people, right? Bonds people like bears because bear market means interests are up and they can do more stuff. So that's why we have bulls and bears representing our market. True story.
That's interesting.
Yep. Okay, so now it's your turn to share. So I can take questions, but I want to do I and I first. There's in a Q&A, and I and I means impact and implement. So I'd like to hear from whoever wants to share one thing that you got tonight. Maybe you learned it for the first time, you saw it in a new way, a new perspective, something that really will help you in your financial journey or your business development. That's the impact. And then the implementation is, now that you've learned that, or you know that, or you see it in a new way, what are you going to do about it? Like this week, what will you implement? Will it be a conversation you need to have? Will it be a document you need to find? Will it be a person you need to call? A book you need to read? By the way, I've got this book here. If anybody wants one, they're $25 and life-changing. Be happy to sign them if you want one. But what is it that you got? What's your nugget that you got? And how will it impact you moving forward? What will you do with that? Who's first?
I'd like to find something you like to do and turn it into a business. Because I'm doing a lot of different things and I'm probably not capitalized. I'm, going a little crazy with all my responsibilities. So I know I need to do less and be more effective.
I love it. And what's your action item? What will you do this week about that?
I want to do some video recordings and try to reach people that way.
Awesome. Actionable. It's great. Great. Who's next?
Well, I learned about stocks and bonds, and I have a whole bunch of money just sitting in a certificate. So I think I might take some out and do a little bit of risking and play and see what happens.
Get Mr. Money working, huh? Get him out of the back bedroom.
Yeah, I need another money stream, that's for sure.
Awesome. And so what will you do this week?
Well, I'm gonna do research and figure out which one I should invest in.
Perfect. Great. All right. Who's next?
For me, it's life insurance. I have life insurance through my insurance and I'm going to change that.
Oh, through your auto insurance?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, and I don't think it's enough,
Yeah.
but it was expensive, so that's why I chose that.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna see if I could move it into something
Good,
else
good.
and have
Get
get
something more
more
appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And more bang for my buck.
And so this week, the action plan is to,
I'm going to look into insurances, and you
I mean,
mentioned Ben.
call AAA
Yeah, I'm gonna call AAA.
and call or go online to do something.
Yes.
So action. right?
Yes,
No,
I'm
just,
going to call AAA and I'm
Yep.
going to look for other insurance. And you said Banner was one that you recommended?
Yep. Banner's good.
I can
Okay.
get
Genworth.
on John.
Yeah. Genworth is good. Yeah.
Jen-
John Hancock.
Genworth.
Oh, John Hancock? I've heard of John Hancock.
Yeah, our guys write a lot of John Hancock. And they have living needs benefits, which is great. You don't have to wait to die to get the money. You can
Oh.
use it if something happens. So
Oh, that's,
John Hancock's good. Good, very actionable. Good job.
yes.
Desiree? What is your impact tonight?
I'm sorry, I've been multitasking, honestly. My baby was like crying up a storm earlier, so I was a little distracted. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Something that you heard tonight, maybe in a new way, or something that you learned, and then the activity, the action that you're going to put to that to make it valuable in your life.
Well, I don't know if this really applies, but I was in Texas talking to my parents. So my background is in education, but they kind of put like a bug in my ear. So I've been looking into real estate or becoming a realtor. And so I was actually looking into programs right now. I'm a military spouse, to see if there is a program that will offer to help pay for that. So that's kind of, I don't know, a new track I'm thinking about just to help us financially, because I'm a stay-at-home mom right now. And being like a first-time mom and having the baby, just something that I can do that's more flexible.
Oh, awesome. And so what will you do this week?
I'm looking into a program right now online to see when I can start online classes.
So you're looking into it. That means you're going online to,
start the online school to become a realtor.
okay, awesome. So you're Googling around, looking for programs, making a list of programs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking for smart, I'm really big on SMART goals. So it's not like, oh, I want to have more money. Well, how much money by when, right?
Right.
So when it's
yeah.
very specific, the more specific we are, the more likely it is that we're going to achieve these goals. So I'm kind of hard that way. It's like,
No,
make it
I
specific.
know.
Yeah.
I worked in special education, so I had to write a lot of those. So I
Yeah.
remember them being very specific, having the date, the time frame, all that good stuff. So yes, by the end of the week, I'm hoping to have a program that I can commit to and get my finances in order to pay for that.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And good luck with that. That's so exciting. New career.
Yep, possibly.
Yeah.
We have time for one last, then we gotta wrap up.
Okay.
I'll share the LLC question, knowing the target, because I have heard that like, oh, you accountants, they like, oh, you should protect yourself of knowing the threshold of like 100K. So my action step is do nothing until I reach that point, but track it and then call Judy.
We'll hook you up.
Yeah, so that was just good to know.
Great.
Because I hadn't heard that before.
So your action is a non-action. Like, don't panic. You have time.
Yeah, but they're doing a better job at tracking. You talked about the separate.
Okay.
Yeah, records. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. Great. Good. Very good. All right. Can I turn it back to you, Jen?
Yes.
Awesome.
So thank you, Judy, so much. That was so helpful. I loved the simplicity of how you explained it. So obviously, guys, I'm going to get this book. So this book, Money, Truth, and Life. So we're going to finish up. So today we're going to finish up with weaving our story, and Desiree. So for those of you who don't know who weaves stories, so obviously, because this is a business group, we like everyone to say, I don't like to say elevator pitch, I call it weave your story. It's to share what you do and do your elevator pitch. So Desiree, she has a keto desserts business, which I am a huge investment of because I love sweets, and I love the fact that I can have sweets and have it be low sugar. So Desiree is going to pitch her Poquito business. So Desi, take over.
Okay. So many people ask me about the name of my business, Poquito Heaven. If you know any Spanish, poquito means a little. So I always say that there's a little bit of heaven in a keto treat. And those are my treats. Poquito Heaven offers a variety of keto baked goods and desserts that are low carb, low sugar, gluten-free treats made with quality products. You should be able to satisfy your sweet tooth without all the guilt.
Love it. Any feedback on that? Was really good, Desi. Very good. Any feedback, you guys?
Where can we order? Where can we find you?
Yeah.
Do you do events?
Yes. I do I do have a website, poquitoheaven.com. But I also do, most of my business comes from social media. So you can always send me a DM. My phone number is on there. You can text me, call me, message me, email me, poquitoheaven@gmail.com. And yes, I do special events. I just need a little bit advance notice. I typically say at least 48 hours for orders, especially not being a new time mom. It requires a little bit more planning to get treats done at night while baby's asleep. But that's just for y'all to know. But yes, I do special events, and I feel like my business is set apart from different businesses here in San Diego because a lot of them stick to more traditional treats like cookies or, cinnamon rolls or, muffins. But I really like to offer a variety of treats. So I do pies, cakes. I try to do like a special treat like bi-monthly, just to offer a variety of things for my customers. And they seem to really like that. And anything that I love, I feel like my customers love, and I'm always open to feedback. A lot of times customers will give me their go-to dessert, like in general, and I try to replicate that to make it a keto treat so that they can still enjoy that.
Awesome. Great. Anybody other feedback?
Yeah, how do we get our hands on it? Do you deliver? Is there like a storefront? How far do you ship?
I don't do any shipping currently. That's a whole nother, I'm still looking into that, but I do local delivery 15 miles within the San Diego area of my zip code. It's a $7 flat rate fee, and then it's 50 cents per extra mile. And then I forgot what the other question was. But yes, I do deliver, or you can pick up from my home. That's where I have my business based out of. And yeah.
Great, thank you.
All right, well, that's it. That's wrapped up for today. Thank you, Desi, for sharing. And so our next woven event is going to be on Monday, June 28th. So don't know yet. Still figuring in the works what's going to be the topic then. But yeah, that's it. If anybody, so we're wrapping up for tonight. Thank you guys for coming. If you guys have any prayer petitions or needs, you guys feel free to share. Otherwise, we're all free to go. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love the way you explained it.
Oh, good.